Oh, g'day, Keithy here. Thanks for joining me. I've got an EAS compressor in my hand here. It's very weird. Well, if you've been following on for the videos that we've been doing over the last sort of month or so, they've all been to do with the EAS, the suspension system in the P38 Range Rover. Now, why is that? Well, it's a common question that I get, and I thought, well, time to answer it. I haven't got any issues. I had no compressor issues. I had no, well, I had one system issue, I should say, where the air was leaking out of the tank overnight. So we sorted that one out. We've done a few things. We've even done compressor rebuilds. Now, we rebuilt 2 compressors. This is one of the 2. So following on from the last video where we did the air compressor rebuild, I thought, why not test them out and see how they go? But I thought, why don't we add a little bit of extra challenge to it? Why don't we test it compared to the original compressor that's in here, which is, to my knowledge, a Dunlop compressor. That's about 2 years old, that's been in the Range Rover. So yeah, grab a seat, guys, grab a coffee. You're going to enjoy this one. What we're going to do is we're going to challenge how long it takes to pump the air tank in the Range Rover up using the compressor that's in here and these 2 here that we've just rebuilt. See how they compare. It's going to be a good one. Well, we couldn't go without checking this out.
Staring at the fires now.
G'day, Keithy here.
G'day, Keithy here. G'day, here.
Oh, you know what? I wish I had something that could keep my beer nice and cool. Whoa, check that bad boy out. It's a chilling with Keithy Stubby cooler. Well, I'll be buggered. But you know what? This is more than just a Stubby cooler. Because if you don't like beer, you can put your water or your coffee or something else in there. How's that? Oh, wowee, I'm impressed. And if you're impressed as well and you want one of the Chillin' with Keithy Stubby coolers, for 20 Australian dollars, that includes postage, I'll send you one of these bad boys to your door. I'll give you the details down below, $20, including the cost of getting it down to you, or up if you're up north of me. Chillin' with Keithy Stubby cooler coming your way. There's the link right there. Woohoo! All right, so we're back. As you can see, a lot can happen in North Queensland in a day. The clouds have sort of come over today. Anyway, we have got the 2 compressors that we rebuilt, plus the compressor that's in the Range Rover. Today, what we are here to do is to challenge both of the compressors that we've rebuilt to make sure that they operate as they should. But I thought, why don't we turn this into a little bit of a test? So what we're going to do is we're going to start from 60 PSI in the tank, all the way up to full. We're going to time it with each of these compressors, but as a baseline, we're going to use the compressor that's already in the Range Rover now, which is a number of years old since it's been rebuilt. So essentially we're testing an old compressor versus these 2 here to see how they go after a rebuild. So I'll set all this stuff up now. I'll take the tank back down to 60 PSI for the starting position. We'll turn the car on and record and time how long it takes to get up to 150 PSI. Now, what I will also do while we're doing this test, I'll make sure that the suspension does not move, so it's not going to try and adjust the height of the car just by leaving one of the doors open. So let's get on with it now. All right, so on that camera and on the main one, we have got 60 PSI in the tank now. This door, passenger door at the front, is unlocked, so I'll go and turn the key now. Hopefully this camera doesn't fall down and we can go and check how long it takes. So we'll start the timer once I start the engine. Away we go, engine is running and we're recording. (100 PSI). We're nearly there. Stop the timer, boys and girls. All right, so compressor number 1 is out. This is the one that was already in the Range Rover. It's a little bit dirty, but yeah, anyway, one thing that I will say too, before we get this next compressor in, they look alike. I'd say this one is probably also a Dunlop compressor. I'm not actually going to bolt these other ones down because they're going to go out anyway. I'm not going to leave them in the car. This is just for the test to make sure that they're working perfectly fine. And another thing that I'll also say, you notice up on the front here, so I feed this EAS compressor from the airbox, which is pre-filtered already. That's how this compressor gets its air. So if I was to use that compressor and hook it up to the airbox and everything like I normally would do, I would have to take this fitting off and fit it to the front of that. I'm not going to do that. So what I have done is I've got a brand new air filter on the front of this compressor here. So when we put it in, it'll go in just like a normal P38 would. If I was to drive around like that all the time, I'd have to block this off so that the air intake doesn't suck dirty air from the engine bay. So I'm just going to put it in. I'm not even going to worry about bolting it down. It may get a little bit noisy. Hopefully it's not. But just for the sake of this test, we'll put it in, sit it in place, and plug it in and do the test that way. I'm not going to go to the lengths of bolting it down. All right, so you can see the tank is now at 60 PSI again. Compressor number 2, which is the Dunlop one. Let's go start the engine and start the timer. So the compressor is running. You might not be able to see it, but I can see it just gently wobbling away here. Very quiet, which is good, just as quiet as the other compressor. I will also add that the other compressor was quite hot at the end of pumping that tank up from 60 to 150 PSI, but after about 2 minutes I could hold it with my hand. I just had that towel over there just so I didn't burn my hands accidentally. Keep in mind this too isn't bolted down, this other compressor, so it's very, very quiet. Really good bushes on the front of it. We're at 75 PSI already. Just over 100 PSI now. We're at about 135 PSI now. We're at about 145, so not far now, and it should stop. Got to nearly be there now. Stop the timer, we're there. Just after running like that at 150 PSI for some time, they do get kind of hot, so I'm using this to make sure that I don't burn myself here. They're nice and easy to take these compressors out, and if you sit them like this when you've got to undo the fitting, it makes life a lot easier. Don't have to fight the fitting to do the job. Now for the last one, I believe this is an OEM compressor. So I can't remember the name of the brand that made the original ones, but anyway, that's what this one is. And it has to go in the right way, doesn't it? If I can get my bearings correct, but you've got to put the airline onto this, the connection. Oh, upside down. That's what's going wrong here. Got to put it on the right way, Keithy. So as with the last one, brand new air compressor fitted up to the old girl. They're very easy to just screw in. No rocket science to this, as long as you don't thread it, because they are made of plastic. And make sure that you get them in nice and firm. You can only really need to do it by hand because it is a positive seal. Okay, there we go. So now number 3 is in, which I think is a genuine one, and I'm pretty sure I've actually rebuilt this one in the past. It's done quite a lot. I've had it for a number of years. It's bolted in now. So I guess the only thing to do is turn the other camera on. Oh, we've got to let the tank down first. Okay, now we can start the engine. Once the engine starts, we'll start the timer again. Once I get the camera going. Wake up, camera. Now we can do it. Good start. We're already at 75 psi now. Same as the other one, nice and quiet. This one is vibrating a little bit more. If you look at it, much of a muchness, coming through the same brand new air filter for this one, so the other one's still got its brand new air filter on as well. Doing pretty good. It's at about 110, 115 psi now. It's a little bit noisier. I think that might just be the mounts. I think once it was all screwed up, it probably would be a lot quieter. It looks like it's vibrating a lot more than the other one did, though. I will say that. Just approaching 120 psi now. We'll give him a little bit longer. Getting closer, we're at about 135 psi now. This last 10 or 20 psi takes probably the longest because it is obviously a lot more pressure to the pump to get the same amount of air in there. At a higher pressure it takes just a little bit longer. It's working quite hard. To the touch it's hot, but it's not too hot to touch. Coming up on 140 psi now. It's doing quite well. Now, I haven't seen any of the timers yet. I'll have to go back through after the fact now and just see how long each of them took to do the job, but I'm going to say I think this one was the quickest of the lot. Regardless, all of them got there in the end in good time. It'd be interesting to compare the Dunlop one to this one though, given that they're pretty much the same thing, just likely made in a different factory maybe. We're almost there. That's it, 150 psi. Yep, the gauge looks all right. Stop the timer. Stop the timer. I think this one definitely was quicker, even though it was rebuilt the exact same way as the other one over there. But anyway, they all got there in the end. So now I will take this one out, put the other one back in that normally lives in here because I got my little custom air intake attached to it, and I want to use that one until it don't work no more. But I think that was 3 really good results. I'll analyse the times and we'll go and talk about it. Alright, for those playing at home, I've got the magic numbers written down. If you want to have a guess really quickly, then by all means go for it. I'll give you 5 seconds. I've got all the numbers written down here. So first off was the original compressor, which I have put back in already, back to normal as per usual. The second compressor was the Dunlop compressor. And then the third compressor was I'm assuming that it was an OEM, a factory one from back in the day. Now the difference between the 3 of them, the 2 Dunlop ones have got like a non-painted, I guess you'd say, head part. They were also quieter and smoother as operators. So If there was a time difference, I wonder if it was because maybe just slightly different breed of compressor. Nonetheless, they all got there in the end, which was really good. 150 psi. None of them looked like they were struggling, and I don't think it took all that long really. We started at 60 psi. Why not 0? Well, it would have just added extra time for no reason really. If they can get to 60, they can get all the way to the top hopefully. So we've done that. Now, what you've all been waiting for, the times. So the compressor, which is I'm assuming is a Dunlop, that was already in my Range Rover and has been for about 2 years. That took 6 minutes and 20 seconds to get from 60 psi to full 150 psi. So that's a good effort. I think 6.5 minutes is a pretty reasonable time. If it was at 0, no doubt it would have taken maybe another minute, because to get that first 60 psi is rather easy for these compressors. They're not running against the pressure, they're running against the, just getting the flow in there in the early stages. The second one, which was a Dunlop as well, which was one of the ones that we just rebuilt, 6 minutes and 48 seconds, so it took 28 seconds more than this one. That's why I say it was probably the brand, because it was maybe 28 seconds slower than this one here. I think that's a bit of a game of give or take there. It's much of a muchness for 20 odd seconds difference between the two, and it also suggests that this compressor is still in good health. The difference between the two compressors that we've tested first, 1 and 2, was the air intake. So on this one, obviously I've got the air intake that comes from the air filter, so I probably should explain that really quickly. I did that so that it gets pre-filtered air from the air box, which is also going to be cooler than the air from the engine bay, and that's the reason that I did that. Now, is it worth 20 seconds to pump the tank up? I don't know if it's any faster, and that's not what I was trying to achieve. I was trying to just feed it with cooler air, and that was the aim of the game there, because it's already going to get hot compressing the air. Now the third compressor, which was what looked like the OEM one, I don't know what brand it was, so don't quote me on that, took 5 minutes and 28 seconds. So that was about 1 minute and 10 faster, or 1 minute and 20 faster than the second compressor, and it was about a minute, just shy of a minute faster than this compressor that's already in my Range Rover. So that's a good effort right there. And it probably goes to show that the OEM one is, although a similar compressor, probably manufactured a little bit different. Maybe it has more compression, so it pumps up the pressure faster. It was noticeable when it was in here that it was a little bit more shaky, vibrating, loud, whatever you want to call it. So perhaps it is working a little bit harder than the Dunlop ones. But nonetheless, I think that's a win for all of them. They all got the job done in the end of the day. And I've put the original one back in, so that's all good to go. So what have we seen today? Well, we just rebuilt a compressor. We just pulled it apart and put all the new settings in. We did it to 2 of them. Obviously I didn't show you the second one because, hey, it's the same as the first one. There's no point repeating myself too much. I hope you can do something like this as well, guys, because it's not exactly a hard job. It's something that I had to learn how to do. And if you've never done it before, then, hey, I've been in your feet, so I've been in your shoes. So I know exactly where you're at if you've got to do the rebuild for yourself. It's not beyond a normal person. You don't need any specialized tools. I show you what I used. I showed you what I used to do the compressor rebuild on one of the compressors. I did the exact same thing for the other one. A couple of things to think of when you are putting it all back together. The one big thing that a lot of people muck up, and it costs them an entire rebuild kit for a compressor, when you're tapping that 20mm socket, 22mm socket on the top, give it 1 or 2 taps and then make sure that it was seated properly before you keep going, because those little seals on the top, if you bang off and start bending them, they're no good. There's no point even continuing. You're going to need to put a new seal on. So you don't want to bend the seal once you've got it on there. You want to be nice and gentle, take your time to do it. What you saw was me rebuild 2 compressors just in the shed with no specialized tools. I didn't even have a vise, which would have been nice. A vise would make things a lot easier because it would hold it nice and still. But alas, you don't need a vise. I got away with it, as you watched there, guys. I showed you everything in as much detail as I could without putting you to sleep. So get into it. Don't forget, guys, the usual story. If you can subscribe, like, all of that kind of stuff, it keeps me going, and I really appreciate making these videos for you as much as I appreciate the likes, the thanks, the comments, and all of that kind of stuff. Down in the description, I've got the means that you can get to me if you want to get a Keithy, chillin' with Keithy Stubby cooler. I use them all the time. Then the link is down, the details are down there. Keithy YouTube at hotmail.com. Yeah, I finally got it. If you want one of those Stubby coolers, all the information is down there in the bottom. And don't forget to subscribe, do all that other stuff, guys. And I will see you next week. Is it going to be another P38 Range Rover video? Nobody knows. But I know. I'll catch you next week, guys. So take care and we'll see you then.